stitching friends. I'm Amy. I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher. I'm really happy to be back with you today, especially because we've had quite a long gap since our last video. This autumn has just been incredibly busy for us so far, and it's not showing any signs of lightening up. So it's just gonna be the ride that it is. But regardless of that, we're happy to be back with you today. We hope that you're all doing well. If this is your first time finding us, welcome. We hope you enjoy what we're doing here on this channel, where we talk primarily about cross stitch and a little bit about globetrotting. More on that later. If this is not your first time and you are returning to hang out with us, thank you so much. We're glad that you enjoy what we're doing, and we enjoy spending time with you. So yeah, thanks for sharing some of your time with us every couple of weeks. So we're gonna do a couple of quick life updates and yeah, just stuff over the last couple of weeks, and then we're gonna get into the stitching because we've got a lot of stuff to show you today. So the first thing I wanted to tell you guys about is I had a meeting one of you in the wild experience, which is always fun and unexpected. So a couple of weeks ago, I popped out over my lunch break to go over to our local Joann Fabrics to pick up a couple things that I needed. And I've met, obviously you go to some place like StitchCon or a gathering of stitchers or even a cross-stitch shop, and it's not quite as unexpected. At something like a stitching retreat, you're going to meet people who watch your channel, and that's really fun. You go to a local stitching shop, there's always the chance you're going to meet somebody who's familiar with your channel. But when you live in a relatively small town like we do, you're not prepared to meet somebody who watches your channel. And so I was very surprised because I had picked up what I was needed. I was standing in line at the checkout, and a couple people ahead of me said something, and I responded to them, and that interaction ended, and it was very nice, and they moved on. And the lady who was standing in front of me turned around and she's like, "I think I know you." And in my mind, I immediately start flipping through my mental Rolodex of faces and names and thinking, okay, how am I supposed to know this person? Where did I meet them? Trying to figure out how this person knows me and why I don't remember them, and feeling bad about that. And then she's like, "Do you make floss tubes?" And I was like, oh my goodness. So her name was Patty, and it was really nice to meet her. Turns out she lives in the town just north of me. And she just happened to be at my Joann's at the same time I was. And I was so surprised because, of course, you guys, we live in a pretty small town, like I said, and we have a dingy little Joann's that, I shouldn't say dingy, but it's a small Joann's compared to, some of the ones that they have in bigger towns. And I just don't ever expect to meet somebody there who would know my channel in such a small area. But sure enough, there was somebody. So it was super fun to meet her and chat with her just for a few minutes. So Patty, thank you so much for taking time to say hello. I really enjoyed meeting you, and that was a real treat. We had talked, as far as life updates, other than that, we had talked in our last video that we were getting ready to head out on a short vacation to the Grand Canyon. So the short story, for those of you who don't want to hear about travel, is that we had a really great time. We're going to talk about it a little bit more at the end of the video and share some photos and stories for those of you that are interested in hearing more about the trip. But just for those who just want stitching, we'll just say now we had a really nice time. It was a lot of fun. And then we also celebrated our 10-year anniversary, which was a great milestone. And that was also a really nice day. We decided to keep it quiet and kind of let our trip to the Grand Canyon really be more of the big event as far as how we were celebrating our anniversary. So yeah, our actual anniversary day was pretty quiet, but we got one of our favorite, dinners out, and just enjoyed hanging out together. So that was a really nice day. And so we're off to another good start for the next 10 years. One of the things that I enjoyed on our last video, we talked about how Gary had been talking about apparently that the traditional gift for a 10-year anniversary is something made of tin. And so we had been talking about that, and we mentioned it in the video. And one of you, I thought this was fantastic, left a comment saying, well, Gary should get you a cross stitch gift from the tinsmith's wife. So for those who don't know, the tinsmith's wife is a local needle workshop in Texas. And I thought that was brilliant. Unfortunately, it was a little too close to our anniversary, our actual day of the anniversary to make that happen. But I just thought, oh my gosh, what a brilliant way to like give a tin gift as a cross-stitch gift from the tinsmith's wife. Anyway, I thought that was really cute. I think that's kind of it as far as life updates. The only other thing I want to make sure to mention is we will probably have a bit of a longer gap between this video and the next time we post an update. And that is because we mentioned previously, I'm heading out on work travel again. So I'm leaving in a couple of days for back to East Africa. And it's going to be a little bit of a longer trip this time than I normally would take. I'm going to spend a good chunk of my time in Kenya again, which as many of you know is I spend a lot of time in Kenya. But then after I finish my meetings there, I'm hopping up to Ethiopia for some additional meetings. So won't be in Ethiopia quite as long, but still spending several days there. And I'm excited about that part of the trip in particular because I haven't been to Ethiopia for about 4 years. So it'll be really great to go back. It's a lovely country. So yes, I'm looking forward to that, but it does mean that Gary's going to be stuck on his own for a couple of weeks. So there'll be obviously a gap in filming for that, but then I'm getting back right before Thanksgiving, and our family volunteered us to host Thanksgiving this year. So basically, as soon as I get home from this trip, we are going to go into high gear to get ready for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving week is also when I do all of my Christmas decorating, which tends to be a big lift. I do a lot of decorating. So it's just going to be full throttle when I get back. Then the weekend after Thanksgiving is my birthday, and we're expecting some friends to come and stay. So all of that to say, it may be 4 or 5 weeks before we actually have a clear time to film an update. So if you don't hear from us for a while or until closer to the holidays, just know that we're busy and we're doing as much stitching as we can, and we look forward to spending some more time with you as soon as possible. Okay, I think that's enough on life stuff. So
see, now I feel like I have to the end of the year to...
No.
I don't have to work on nothing.
No.
That's what I just heard.
It is an opportunity for you to make impressive progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what I heard.
You heard? No. So we're going to share with you, I have a fully finished object to show you, and then we're going to get into our whips. So on our last video, I showed you a finish from I showed you, I had a finish on the Merry Christmas design in the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillow set by Jeanette Douglas Designs. I stitched it on a piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions using the called for floss. And so in our last video, we showed you the finished stitching and had mentioned that we had a frame on order, but it hadn't come in yet, so we weren't able to do that. I wasn't able to show you the fully finished piece, and then we were gonna gift it away. So I don't have it with me to share with you today, but we will show you a photo of the fully finished piece all framed up and ready to gift. So that was a birthday present for my mother. And so we gave that to her when we celebrated as a family. She really loved it. And so I know she's looking forward to putting it out for Christmas this year, but we wanted to show you how it turned out in the frame and what it looks like. I thought it was really pretty, and I'm super glad that she was excited about it. Okay, so that's it on the fully finished object. I don't have any finishes to show you, so we're gonna move on into the whips. So the first thing I have to show you is my full coverage stitching. I am working on Rose Trellis In by Heaven and Earth Designs, stitching this on a piece of 28 count white Lugana, 2/1, using a combination of half stitch and continental stitch. And the last time you saw this design, I had pretty sad progress from my prior rotation because I traveled the week that this was in rotation, and so it didn't get very much time. So when you saw it last, I was very close to finishing the roof on the front porch on the bottom level of the house. And then I had stitched most of the middle section. So the front porch of the house has kind of a couple of support beams on it that make it sort of, it visually sort of separates the front porch into 3 sections. And so I was almost finished filling in that middle section. When you saw this last, just a little bit of stitching left to do there. One other thing that I had finally done that I was excited about was you could see in that section, there's a man and a woman sitting down having a cup of tea. And you could start to see the head of the man showing up in the design. So here's where I am right now. So I made good progress on this last time. Definitely more progress than last time. One thing I do want to mention is I had a lot of confetti stitching this last rotation on it. So even though I got good time on it, the progress isn't as visible just because confetti stitching is really, really slow. So there's a ton of confetti in all of these white sections, and there was quite a bit of white that I was stitching. And then there's also a lot of confetti in these hanging flower baskets. So that also slowed me down. But as you can see, I've now completely filled in this middle section down to the end of that, the page. So that is done. This column is very close to being done. I got the curly Q kind of cornice piece up here in the left-hand corner of the 3rd section of the roof, or 3rd section of the porch done. Stitched in quite a bit of this window over here, also quite a bit of the hanging flower basket, as well as you can kind of see I did get a lot more of the siding in over here. So we're almost to the end of this side of the house now. Another thing that I was really excited about, this roof is basically done. There's just a tiny little bit of white trim stitching to finish over here, and then the roof is completely done. And another thing that was really great was that I finally got to come over into this. There's a side section here of background, and that tends to be a little bit lighter stitching as far as, you know, you just kind of thread your needle and kind of just stitch your way on down without having to do a lot of parking. And so it was really nice to start kind of doing some of this fill in over here that's a little bit lighter and faster stitching. So I can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as being close to the end of this row of pages. Probably another 2 rotations, I'd say, before I'm done. That might be a little bit ambitious because there is still confetti to go. But it's coming on and I'm really enjoying it, and I think it's looking really good. So that's where I am on Rose Trellis Inn. Okay. The next piece I'm going to show you is my seasonal stitch. So I am working on Joyful Song by Samplers Not Forgotten, and I am stitching this. I should mention that on all of my, with the exception of my full coverage, or unless otherwise noted, I stitch everything 2/2, generally with 2 strands of floss. So I am stitching this design on a piece of 36 count cream and sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim. And the last time you saw it, it was a brand new start. I had just stitched in a little bit of the borders and a little tiny bit of some of the kind of berries or flowers that are up along the top. So here's where it is right now. Reasonably good progress. The week that I worked on this, I had a couple of nights that I worked later than normal at work, and then was, you know, it was just a busier week. So I didn't make quite as much progress, but still quite good. So as you can see, I got the borders mostly done, or partial, you know, clear borders almost all the way around, and have started in across the bottom here. Did a fair job of getting in kind of some of these main elements of the design. So I've stitched in all of the roof of the house. Just need to fill in those 2 chimneys here, and then started stitching in these first couple rows of the house itself. As you can see, some of these little elements like quilt stars I've started stitching in. Got the heart, started working on one of the birds, and this kind of vine that goes around the inside of the design with some flowers and leaves. So still very much enjoying this. I think it's just beautiful. I'm loving the colors on this fabric, just loving the colors in general, and this one was really enjoyable to work on. So I'm looking forward to when it comes out again. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun and it was great to get some time on it. So that is it for Joyful Song. And next we are going to hear from Gary on the projects he has been working on.
All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Louis Armstrong, and that is by Stitching by Jules Designs. I don't know why I don't just remember this, but whatever. It's stitched on 16 count white Aida with black DMC. The last time you saw this, I think I was in the same place I am now, sort of. The last time you saw this, I'd shown you where I had to take out stitches because I didn't do it right. So we took out a bunch of stitches and I put them back. Well, Amy put in half. She put in the cross stitch, one cross, so that I wouldn't mess it up again. And I filled in the other half.
I think there were 2 rounds of frogging before we got to this point.
Yeah, and then I started, anyway, so that's where that was. So this is where it is now. And you can see that we've fixed the issue with the top part of the trumpet. It would have looked like a W or something. I don't know. It wouldn't have been right. Anyway, it's good now. And I started working on the that part of the trumpet.
The neck?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know if that's the official.
The chicken neck.
The chicken neck.
Well, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that's where that is.
You guys, it was really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Excuse. Now I don't even know what I was going to say. Go ahead and do your thing.
No, I feel
Nope.
bad now.
I have nothing else to say.
Oh.
This is the way it looks now. I'm afraid to do any more work on it while she's gone because I might mess it up again. So there may not be that much work done on that the next time you see it, or there could be a lot. We'll see how that
It could all
goes.
be wrong.
Yeah.
No, it was funny because the first time there was a mistake, I helped him with the frogging and kind of got it to a point where I was like, okay, start from here and go. And so he did. And then he brought it to me. He's like, I think something's wrong. Can you figure out, can you look at it and tell me if you could figure out where I went wrong? And so I sat down with the chart and his piece and I was like looking and I was like, there's so many mistakes. I don't know where to. So then we just frogged so much. And then he said, but it was really funny because he's like, I don't know where I went wrong. And I was looking at it, I was like, what happened here? So it's happened to all of us. So I'm not making fun of you.
We went back to our last good startup.
We did. And now we're in a really good place. And I think
Techie people will know what I mean by that.
Oh, I think it looks great. All right, we're going to move on. Okay.
Thanks for making my audio editing a little bit more difficult.
I apologize. You have my sincere apologies. Okay, I'm done now. Good.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're back to my time again. And we're going to go ahead and talk about, oddly enough, Women Who Behave. It's by Sue Hillis Designs. And it's... You just got it. It's stitched on 16 count black rock salt Aida. 16 count black rock salt Aida by Color and Cotton with the called for DMC. I think it's hilarious that she just got it. Anyway, yeah, so the last time you saw this, I think I had just finished the pink ribbon below the first set of letters. I don't know, no, I don't think I started working on any of the letters below that. I haven't done too much on this since then, but what I have been able to do, here's what it looks like now, is I'd have to look because I don't remember. What is it? I put in the word really and the WA or MA for make, but they're not backstitched. So there you have it. I've got to finish those letters And honestly, if I can finish really and make before Amy leaves, that would be great, because I have to shift it over to start the skeleton head and the word history. So maybe that will be done when she gets back, and Louis Armstrong will be in the same condition it was when she left. Who knows? Maybe I'll start the dragon. Anyway, there's all kinds of things that could happen. What is it? Anyway, so that's where we are on those two.
Great. Okay. Let's see. So the next thing I'm going to show you as far as my whips is my sampler category. So I am stitching, what's this called? Faith of the Heart by With Thy Needle and Thread. And this is on 36 count Strauss linen by, is it Color and Cotton or what's the, let's see. Yeah, Color and Cotton. That was hard. Okay, so the last time you saw this, I had made super good progress. I took it to Tanzania with me and I got a decent chunk of stitching time on my trip, which can be a bit unusual. And so I had made excellent progress. I had finished stitching basically everything to the left of the house. So I got the bird and all of like the flora that was around the bird. I got his little vase, or it's not a bucket, it's like a urn that the bird is sitting in. I stitched most of the words along the bottom and quite a bit of the bottom border. And then I did a big chunk of fill in on the house that's in the middle of the design. This time around, this piece did not get as much love. So this came up in rotation the week that we were on vacation in the Grand Canyon. I did take it with me. I only worked on it once while we were there because that's just, I mean, when we're on vacation, especially if we're vacationing with friends, we do have downtime where we're just hanging out talking in the evening. But I just find that time usually I just want to stay like really present and focused on the conversation. And if I'm stitching, I might be a little less engaged. And so I just tend not to stitch as much. So we only had one night that we were kind of like, everybody was exhausted and it was like after dinner, we all just went to our rooms. And so I worked on it for a few minutes that night. So I did work on it a day or two before we left. So here's where I am right now. I did get a bit more of the words done. So I'm actually almost finished with all of the words. I think I stitched this top border. Yeah, I stitched this top border over here and then started stitching this other part of the border down over here. Stitched a little bit in up here and then started the fill in on the house. So a little bit of progress, not a ton of progress, but that's okay. It's getting there and I think it's really beautiful. But yeah, this one just didn't get the love that it typically would have. So anyway, that's how it looks right now.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who's in the urn?
Who do you want it to be?
No one.
It's okay, good. I was gonna try and make it
Should be an empty urn.
empty urn. It's for rent.
That happens.
It does. All right. I was gonna try and make a really clever response to that, and obviously it didn't work.
Keep trying.
Oh no. Okay, the last whip that we have to show you is my Fancy Lady. I am working on At the Met by Mirabilia. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count red Aztec red, not red Aztec red linen by Weeks Dye Works. And I'm using the called for flosses. The only change really is I did do a skin conversion on her. I did her skin 1/1 and I made her a little bit more African American than Caucasian. So the last time you saw this piece, I had stitched in, she's got all the kind of the beaded garlands that she's wearing. And so I had stitched in most of the beaded garlands that are kind of hanging off to the left side of her dress. I had been stitching down through the skirt of her gown and you were just starting to see the top of the section where at the bottom of her dress, there's like a big kind of bead encrusted sort of flowers and leaves and curlicue motifs. And then, so I had started stitching just at the top of that section. You could start to see where the outlines of those bits were going to be coming in. And then had been stitching down through her, her sash. Here's where she is right now. So as you can see, really, really making good progress on her now. So I was really delighted because I completely finished all these hanging bead garlands and her tassels on both the left side and the right side. It felt really good to get those done because they're really fussy. So I was really, really happy to get those done. I've decided that she just fell into the drapery, and that's why she's wearing all this stuff, because I just can't imagine any woman in real life would ever wear that much, so many strands of something. Anyway, so in addition to that, you can see I stitched down more of the bottom of her gown and started stitching in, more of the I guess the filigree or the kind of the design at the bottom of her gown, and the beads and this leaf motif here, started working those in. And then of course carried that sash down even further. So I'm really excited because I wouldn't say I'm exactly in the home stretch now, but there's a couple of these major elements outside of the gown itself that I think will be done. I'll get those finished the next time she comes out. And so it feels like I'm getting close to the home stretch with her, which is great, not only because she's beautiful and I'm excited to have her finished and ready for fully finishing, but also because I'm really excited about the next piece that I'm planning to work on, my new fancy lady that I'll start when she's done. So anyway, I think she's so beautiful, and I really enjoyed working on her. So that's how she's coming on. So let's see. That is it for whips. We do have a little bit of haul to show you, just a little bit. So while we were on our trip to the Grand Canyon, we ended up, to get there, we flew into Las Vegas. And there were a couple of reasons why we flew into Vegas. I'd never been there before, if you guys can believe it. So I was like, all right, now I can say I've been to Vegas. We didn't drive along the strip, but we drove so we could, on a highway where you could see the strip. So I've seen it from a distance. But if you're in Vegas and you're a stitcher, it's kind of, you're kind of obligated to make sure that you go to Stitcher's Paradise. So before we flew in late one night, and the next day as we were getting ready to head out of town, we made a quick stop at Stitcher's Paradise just to kind of poke around a bit. And so I picked up a couple of charts that have been hanging out on my wish list for a while we were there. So the first one is Bluebirds of Happiness by JBW Designs. This one has been hugely popular ever since it was released because it is a gorgeous chart. The colors are beautiful. It is a really lovely chart. And so, I know a number of you have stitched this or have seen it on other people's channels, and I've wanted it ever since it first came out. So I was really happy to be able to pick up a copy of that. And I also picked up a copy of Christmas Stamps by Madame Chantilly. This one was 100% enabled by Amanda from Alba Stitcher. I really enjoy watching her channel, and she was working on this a couple of months ago. She's doing it as charted, where it's like the whole advent calendar. But when I first saw it on her channel, first of all, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so cute. But I just felt like each of these individual Christmas stamps would make wonderful little gift tags that could be then repurposed as Christmas ornaments. And so I'm actually planning to take this on my next trip with me as my travel stitch. And I want to see if I can stitch a couple of these and then bring them back and do a finish on them where I can turn them into little gift tags for family for our Christmas celebration this year. So super excited about this. Okay, that is it for haul. We had one question that I wanted to answer, and then we'll take a little bit of time to talk about our trip to the Grand Canyon. So as far as questions, we got a question from Anne, and she said, could you possibly review how you do your rotation? I know you were working on a fancy lady. Is that one of your categories? So Anne, thank you for the question. I thought it was a really great one, especially because we've got a lot of newer viewers, and it's been a long time since I actually explained how I do my rotation. I think it's kind of interesting probably for some of you to hear, especially because I'm a little bit less, I'm a little unusual in Flosstube land in that I have a pretty structured rotation. I think I'd say, you know, the majority of stitchers out there who are making floss tubes, and many of you out there who are viewers, have more of a stitch what you want when you want approach to your stitching, which I think is great. The whole point of this hobby is to do it in a way that it gives you joy. And so for me, having a rotation is, you know, it works really, really well for me. I've been doing it for a number of years. And I like having that structure. I like the productivity. I like the predictability and the planning. And it just kind of, it scratches a lot of itches for me. But it is a little bit less common among the Flosstube community to have such a structured approach to the hobby. So for me, I'll try and be as brief as I can. Essentially, I've got 5 main categories of stitching in my rotation. So quickly, those are full coverage, sampler, fancy lady, and seasonal. And then the 5th category is what I call my wild card, which my wild card tends to be either a design that doesn't definitely fit in one of the other categories, or a design that it would fit in one of those categories, but it tends to be a large one. And so particularly for like a seasonal design, I tend to gravitate toward picking charts that are small to medium size in my seasonal category, because all of the other categories tend to be really large charts that take 9 months or even longer to do to complete. And so having smaller seasonal designs gives me more regular finishes, and it kind of keeps things feeling like I'm making good progress all throughout the year. So wild card is also a place where I could do a seasonal design that is bigger. It's going to take me more time. And so I'll sometimes use that category for pieces like that. So with my rotation, for each of the 5 main categories, I spend a full week working on those before I move on to the next piece. And I know, again, that's unusual. A lot of people only spend maybe 2 or 3 days working on something. There are a lot of people who change what they work on every day, or even work on multiple pieces a day. I don't find that particularly for me, that just doesn't scratch my itch for stitching. I like to have an opportunity to like sink in, to make some real progress. And then after about a week, I start to feel like, okay, I'm ready to work on something else. So giving it a full week helps me make sure that I get noticeable progress most of the time on each of my pieces, but then I get to move on to something else. When I get to the end of my 5 weeks, I've worked on all 5 of those pieces. I start back through at the beginning of the rotation. So my pieces generally get about, 10 to 12 weeks of work a year. I also have 2 kind of subcategories that get a little bit less work. So I also have a travel stitch that I take with me when I travel. So it's kind of unpredictable when that's going to get some time. And then I have my weekend stitch, which is my butterfly port mauve. And I try and put in 250 stitches every weekend. But again, that can be a little bit variable. So the only other thing I'll say about my rotation before I stop talking about it is that I have keep my whip count down by I don't start a new project until I have finished one of the pieces in my rotation. And when I start a new project, I start something that fits within that category of whatever part of the rotation I've finished. So that helps me keep my whip count down, and it helps me keep good variety in what I'm working on. So I get to enjoy a lot of different kinds of things. So I'm happy to answer questions if you guys have more questions about my rotation, but thought it was a good opportunity to kind of give you a sense of that since many of you are newer here. So thank you again for your question, Anne. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really quick rundown on our plans over the next couple of weeks, and then those of you that are just interested in stitching, that'll be a great stopping off point. For those who want to hear a little bit about our Grand Canyon adventure, stick around and we will share some stories and photos from that trip. So as far as plans are concerned, I am going to spend some time working on my wildcard piece, which is Cabin Fever by Dimensions. That one's not going to get quite a full rotation just because, as I mentioned, I'm heading out on some work travel. So I'll put as much progress into that as I can before I leave. And then as far as my trip is concerned, as I mentioned, I'm going to take Christmas stamps with me. I want to get a start on that while I'm flying. And then when I'm actually in country, we'll see how much stitching time I have. It's always a little bit of a a guessing game on how that's going to go. But I'm going to take 2 projects with me. And I did actually kind of restructure my rotation a bit just to make sure that the pieces that I'm taking with me are pieces that are travel friendly, because as you've seen just in what you've looked at today, not all of my pieces lend themselves well to travel. So I am going to take Faith of the Heart with me, and hoping to make good progress on that. And then I'm also going to take Joyful Song. I think both of those are more small to mid-sized projects, and they'll be a little bit easier to manage while traveling. You already heard Gary. He's probably going to be working on Women Who Behave, and then we'll see if he puts any stitches in on Louis Armstrong. I have a feeling he will, even though he's threatening to not stitch until the end of the year. So we'll see what actually happens. So that's it for our plans. I am also hoping to get some time in on my weekend stitch, but that has been sadly neglected just because
Which one is your weekend?
that's Butterfly Port Mauve.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Makes it easier to put a picture up of it.
Does it?
Yeah. Just a little.
Makes sense. So I'm hoping to make some more progress on that one, but it's been so neglected because of travel and being busy. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, if this is where you're stopping off, thank you again for spending some time with us. We really enjoyed hanging out with you. If you're sticking around, we hope you enjoy hearing about our trip to the Grand Canyon. So basically, as we had said in our last video, this was Gary's first time visiting the Grand Canyon. It was my first time going back since I was a toddler. And we had a really great time. We went with some good friends of ours who have become friends that we can vacation with, which, as if you've ever gone on vacation with friends, you know that like some people you vacation well with and some people you don't. And we're really lucky because this couple we vacation very well with, and we always have a great time. We always have a lot of laughs, and we certainly did that this time around. It was just a fantastic trip. So our first, like I said, we flew into Las Vegas. My sister actually lives there, so it was really nice because she and her husband hosted us when we arrived. We got in late at night and just crashed at their house, had a great breakfast in the morning before we headed out, did a little bit of shopping, and then that night drove out to the Grand Canyon. We actually spent the first night, so the Grand Canyon is really long, and so part of it it's like national park land, and then part of it is actually on native land that is owned and managed by the local Native American tribes. So the first night that we were out, we stayed out on in a motel on native land because we were getting up early in the morning for a whitewater rafting trip that's run and managed by the local tribe. So that was a very early morning start, but I think that trip was kind of the highlight of the day. Well, you talk about that, Gary.
Oh, there were rapids, so I guess that was kind of exciting.
It was. So we got up to, I think, class 7 or 8 rapids at one point.
No, we got 10.
Did we get to 10?
The last one was at 9 to 10.
Okay. It was super fun. Nobody fell in, so that was a success. But yeah, it was really great. So we had like a good long drive. I think one of the things that I was most surprised by, okay. Should I stop?
No, just keep going.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Just find a natural stopping point. See, now I have to cut this out.
No, you don't. Just pay no attention to what's happening behind the curtain, people. For me, one of the most surprising things was how quickly the landscape and the terrain would change. So you'd be driving or you'd be out there and you'd be in like your classic, what you think of as desert, where it's sand and there's rocks and there's cacti and, you know, kind of desert flowers or desert brush. And then you'd go a little farther and you'd be in forest, like or high desert. I mean, it was really beautiful. So we drove through a good long section of desert to get down to the Colorado River. And they got us, we went through the whole safety stuff. We all got on the boats and got out, and we did went through a couple of rapids, kind of got our feet wet, so to speak, like figuratively and literally. And then we got to stop to do a little bit of a hike. So what was really cool about this hike was it was like in this kind of side canyon, and we basically hiked up along a stream until we got to, there was like a waterfall it's almost like a slot canyon or a cave, because it had an open ceiling, but it was like a narrow open ceiling. So we would, we went up this hill, and then it got steeper and steeper to the point where they had like rope ladders, and you would kind of haul yourself up. And then at one point, like there's this pool we had to, kind of like wade through a pool, and there's waterfall coming down on either side, and you're climbing up a rope ladder, and you kind of wade through a stream to get to the big main waterfall. It was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed that part of the day. So we spent a good bit of time there. Went further down the river on the the Whitewater, the rapids, after we finished there, stopped for lunch. And then the whole afternoon, it was like calmer water and no more rapids. And so we took some really beautiful photos and video of that part of the trip, and just kind of the river curving around. And it was a really fun day. I had such a nice time. The crew was fantastic. So we really enjoyed it. I don't know if you have any kind of like recollections or things you want to share, or, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yet here we are.
Oh my goodness. This is not going well.
No, you kind of, I don't know what else to add.
Okay.
It was outside.
It was beautiful.
We were outside most of the time.
All right, we're going to move along. Anyway, the next day we spent the next 2 days actually in Grand Canyon National Park itself. I think just really amazing. So what was cool was that, when we were on the Whitewater trip floating down the Colorado, we're at the very bottom of the canyon, and then to kind of go there, and then the very next day be up at the top of the canyon, and just to get that sense of how far down in there the Colorado River is. And just the size of the canyon itself was really amazing. The different colors are so beautiful. So we hiked along the rim the second day. And one of the things that we really wanted to do that day was, the sunsets had been beautiful, and so we wanted to stay and see the sunset in the canyon. And so we did that. It was so beautiful. We got some gorgeous pictures from the sunsets. And then we wanted to stay and see the stars, but there was a storm coming in, and so the cloud cover kind of blocked out a lot of what we would have seen stars-wise. But yeah, I mean, we really, really enjoyed that day. And then the next day we did more hiking along the rim, and then hiking through the woods. We got to see some elk, which was really, really cool. So yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know that we have any like stories to tell other than to say that it was beautiful. The canyon was amazing. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice trip and a nice little getaway. So, yeah.
It was. I recommend it, but you don't need to wear socks if you do the white. You don't need socks.
That's right. You wore socks whitewater rafting.
If you wear your socks, you'll regret it.
I almost wore my socks, and then I took them off at the last minute.
Well, the instructions were ambiguous, but.
Yes.
The prep instructions. But either way, I'm telling you, you don't need socks.
Or a vape.
A what?
There was a guy on the bus on the way back from the trip who was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he was toward the back, and he was like just sitting there vaping, and I was like, you're on a bus with people. Like, there's a reason this is prohibited on planes. We don't want your vaping on the bus. Come on, man. Anyway.
I guess I missed that.
Yeah, you were sleeping. All the rest of you guys were sleeping, and I was sitting there, and I was like, my eyes were bugging out of my head because I was like, "Are you serious right now?"
You sure you weren't sleeping?
I'm positive I wasn't sleeping.
The rest of us were awake and you were just
I
dreaming.
think Clark said he saw it too.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good confirmation to me.
Okay. Anyway. Anyway, it was a really lovely trip. We won't go on and on about it, but we hope you've enjoyed seeing the pictures and hearing a little bit about what we did.
You should go if you haven't.
Yeah.
If you can.
If you can, it's definitely worth the trip. There was an interpretive ranger who happened along at part of the time that we were in the national park. And she was outstanding. Like, she was also, her talk was one of my highlights as well. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, I think that's it for us today. We won't keep going on about it, but thank you so much for coming to hang out. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoy our videos just generally, we hope you'll give us hit the thumbs up button so that it helps us find new viewers on YouTube. Oh gosh, what was I gonna say? My mind just completely went
I
blank.
think you were going to say see ya.
I was gonna say see you.
Did you get the email address?
I didn't. Yeah, if you want to reach out to us between videos, you can find me on Instagram at globetrotting_Stitcher. Also Gmail, globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. We enjoy all of your comments, so please feel free to leave a comment.
Except for you.
No, stop it.
You know who you are.
Oh, stop it. Oh, do you want to talk about your...
No, that's a Halloween guy. I'm trying to figure it out. I think he's a werewolf, a werewookie. It's Star Wars: The Black Series action figures. There's these holiday figures, and I was lucky enough to get him for $9.99, plus tax and shipping and handling. Tax in America, for people who don't pay those, we pay it on everything. There's a breathing tax in the U.S. Anyway, that's a different story. Anyway, that was Halloween. There was candy, there was spooky stuff, and that's a werewookie.
A werewookie. You've seen it. And he's got a, you probably can't see it, but he's got a little trick-or-treating bucket, which I think is hysterical. So anyway, thank you again for spending time with us. Thanks for your patience as we kind of navigate the next couple of weeks while they're really busy. We hope that you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in the U.S. and you celebrate. And we will look forward to seeing you as soon as possible as we kind of get through this crazy busy season. So thanks again, and we will see you as soon as we can. Take care. Happy stitching. Bye.
Yeah. Cut.